Before we commence our celebration of this year's Refugee Week, I want to acknowledge that wherever we are listening to this video, this movie night, we are all on Aboriginal land. The Asylum Seekers Centre in Newtown is on the land of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. I want to pay my respects to the traditional custodians of this land and to elders both past, present and emerging. Hello and welcome to Asylum Seekers Centre's Refugee Week movie night. We celebrate Refugee Week for many, many reasons, but it is really about sharing the rich and enormous contribution that people seeking asylum and refugees make to our community. This year's theme is to welcome, and it's more important than ever given that we are living through the COVID-19 pandemic. Unfortunately, in Australia, the federal government has not included people seeking asylum on an income support package. It's really come to some one-off emergency relief by state, by Red Cross, and by you, our community. The welcome has been abundant. Everyone is calling us to see what can I do to help. They're donating money and food and time and practical things this winter, like beanies and gloves. I want to, just for a minute, pay tribute to our staff and our volunteers. Our staff have worked non-stop to offer amazing services from their own homes. And whilst they're separated from colleagues and now, supportive volunteers, it's difficult, but people have done it and been really creative in it. And for volunteers who wanted to come in and can't, but have found other ways to help us. So really, it's a celebration of many things. Hi, Ben and Andrew. Thank you very much for your time now and for really being part of this discussion in Refugee Week about the film Hearts and Bones, and really to give us a bit of insight about the creation of the story and what it was actually like to be part of that creation and the story behind the story in a way. We're hosting this tonight in celebration of Refugee Week in 2020. Can I ask each of you to respond to why you think Refugee Week is important to mark as a period of time in Australia's history?
I mean, I think it's important in a lot of ways, but certainly anything that reminds us of the plight of other people and to have more empathy is a really important thing. And I think we get so busy with our own day-to-day lives that moments and weeks and days like this, to be able to reflect, to watch films, to read books, to connect with people, to offer your time to charities around Australia and people who need help is a really important thing to be reminded of.
Yeah, to me too, it's a very, very important thing to happen because there are people who went through trauma, pain, and so many events, so many things. So by doing it would actually let them know that there are people out there who cares.
Well, thank you. And thank you both for being part of it. Then can I come to you? And, there's a lot written about the creation of the script, the movie, Hearts and Bones. Can you tell us in your own words, what led you to create and that process of creating Hearts and Bones and that sense of having a refugee story at its heart?
Yeah, look, it goes back a long way. I started writing this film in 2002. Mm-hmm. And it began with an experience that I was working with Amnesty International and doing a series of short films for them, which focused on the lives of former refugees who are now living in Sydney. And one of those groups was a Bosnian women's choir. And they would gather each week in a hall in Auburn in Sydney's west, and they would sing songs together. And it was through that healing came about. But I love this idea of a group of people who had such remarkable lives, resilience and a sense of hope and ability to get them and their families here to Australia, that I really wanted to talk about that context of having hope, having been through a tragic experience, and reflect that through one person's story. The script really continued to change even up right until the end, even during filming. And a large part of that was meeting Andrew and asking his take on the script and asking his interpretation of the of the events that were written down. And I'd done my research in terms of meeting people who had a lived experience of what I was trying to write about. And it was simply listening to them and asking them to reflect on the story that I'd written and asking them to enrich it and respond to it. And certainly when I met Andrew, one key moment was there was a town that I'd mentioned in the script called Meridi. And something that we connected on very quickly was that Andrew had been to Meridi in his younger life and studied there. So I was really keen to know what the town was like. Little things like that were always really important to keep that communication between us open. And I think it was, I couldn't have made the film without Andrew's help.
I've read you said that as well, that you couldn't see the film now without Andrew as being part of it. And Andrew, what made you say yes when you read the script? Because I think I read somewhere that you almost didn't come to the casting.
And actually, not I didn't come, but I nearly left. I said, okay, since these people are not coming out, maybe they no longer need anyone. So I give them 10 minutes, maximum 15 minutes. If they didn't come out, I'm leaving. I'm going. And then just in 5 minutes, one of the lady came out and said, "You're next." So she gave me hope and keep on waiting. When I got in there, Ben gave me a small script to read, and I thought that was it. And when we finished that, he keep on adding, and the second audition, he add more, and the third one, he came with reams of papers.
And it continued.
Yeah.
I love that part where you say that you've got more words than Hugo Weaving in that film.
Yeah, correct. I got 2,100 words. You may say it's the first time to act, but the role that I'm given, it's too big, like 10 movies in one place, like somebody who had been acting for a very long time because the role is big. And that's how we manage around Blue Mountain there, walking to that mountain over there and reading the script and, talking about it. My brain was just working like a factory, thinking about it only. I don't have anything. I'm just focusing. When we finished from there, we went to Sydney to a big hotel. I've never been in a big hotel for such a long time like that. And just 10 days, they pay nearly $6,000 for that period. So I said, no. This thing might be very, very serious. And then I have to step up to bring it to the level that is required.
And Andrew, you're talking then about that preparation in the Blue Mountains. Is that right, about the preparation for the film, given you hadn't actually had a formal acting role before?
Yeah, we went to Blue Mountain. I have the entire house, just me alone. And we practice, we do the rehearsal there because the guy who I work with, is called Nico. He just lives close by. So they intentionally got me a place close to that guy so we can work together. So we work as a family.
Ben, can I come back to you? And, you've talked a bit about how you learnt and adapted the film, and with Andrew as such a key part and others. But having seen the film, it's such about the complexity of human lives, isn't it? Can you talk a little bit more about that and that diversity that you show, that it's not a simple story?
Yeah, look, I really wanted people to relate to these characters, and in a lot of ways they're difficult to relate to because their life experience is so extreme and beyond kind of our suburban life typically most people have in Australia, and that was really the audience. It was a suburban audience. But when you look at someone like a war photographer or a former refugee and what they'd gone through, in order to ground them, they really need to have basic objectives or goals in their lives. And they were things that we can all relate to. Like, it might be just renovating a house or wanting to buy a house or wanting to, move house or raise a family safely, or what school is my children going to go to. Really simple things like that the characters were able to have allowed us to get into their lives and see that they were like us. But then also they had a very broad kind of global view on the world, having experienced, wars and other things around the world. So it was kind of the intimate and the epic that allowed us to kind of get into their lives. And in that way, I think that, they're relatable characters and they're real characters. That's what I was interested in achieving.
Absolutely, and it comes through. And you mentioned, clearly it's one of the central characters played by Hugo Weaving is a war photographer. At the end, can you talk about, as the credits come on, there are some powerful photographs and your choice in including them?
Yeah, sure. Look, there's a sequence of photographs at the end of the film, and for me, those images really do what the film can't do, and that is really, I guess, the address the gravity of what's going on in the world. They also tell the story of humanity and the idea that peoples have always moved around the world, seeking safer places, seeking better fortune, seeking a better life for their family, and so, in Australia is really made up of those stories. So that's something I wanted to reflect. I also wanted to say that these issues are ongoing and that I had a captive audience. So really to show these people these images of photographers having been on one side and then these incredible people with hope traversing the world, trying to get to another part of the world, those stories reflected very quickly in a montage. And they may be traumatic, but they really leave the cinema thinking about the stories of those people.
Yeah, absolutely they do. The real part and the joy of the film is the choir. As you said, then the beginning of the origin of the story was the Bosnian Women's Choir. But Andrew, you created one of the songs and you are part of a choir yourself. Can you talk about that and your role in that?
Yeah, in the script, I actually have a role to play to organize the choir. And once we went to that studio, and I started organizing them, I remember the guy who we were working with, Nico, said, yes, this is the exact thing that you have to do. And I was actually doing it, so it happened that way. And as you know, music is part of a healing. We take music as a healing. It can resolve so many problems that you have, whether emotionally or trauma, whatever you have. It helps a lot in recovery. And that's why you see at the end, we say, you can shake it off. You can shake it off in a song or in action or something like that. So I found we not me alone, but we found that it's actually a necessary things to happen in a group. Some people mourn with a song. People mourn with a song. So that's the way it happened.
And great joy as well, isn't it? Because that
exactly
joy and that being part of a collective with it. Look, thank you both for your time now. I think it's time now for people to see and enjoy the film. I certainly have, and really appreciate this discussion. So thank you both.
Great.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I hope they like it.
Oh, I'm sure they will. Thank you.